What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Gaelic Gridiron podcast. And joining me is a man who I haven't had the pleasure of seeing in a long time, and I'm delighted to be face to face with again. None other than John Romanowski, aka Coach Romo. Coach, what's going on? How are you?
I mean, considering I think Rocky Blyer was your last guest, and which I mean, a guy that basically was told he wasn't going to walk again, and then became a really good professional football player. I'm humbled to be invited on that.
Not a,
It
not a
must have been
tough act to
it must
follow
have
at
been a
all.
slow week. Must have been a slow week in American football Ireland, but I appreciate the time. As an American, I appreciate the time.
No, it's always good to talk football with yourself, Coach. So, for people listening and watching, can you give us a bit of background about how you got involved with Irish American football, just to kind of set the tone for our conversation?
Yeah, like I'm an American expat, so I moved here 12 years ago now, 11 years ago, and knew nobody, knew my wife's family, and I had a small child. And after about a year, I was ironically, I was talking to my wife, and I had coached football, for a long time before moving over here. I was having a conversation with my wife, and she said, why don't you go coach American football? Why don't you go see what's going on? And that was a huge mistake, probably on her part, that she regrets. But for me, it was something that uh, I will never forget and really appreciate. So yeah, and that's when I started. I literally looked up. I went on the internet and looked up American football in Ireland, and this team, the Dragons, came up. And honestly, at the time, the Dragons were not in good shape at all, to say the least. And I think that they've only scored a few touchdowns in years. And I said, I can't do any worse for these guys. And thanks to the then head coach and owner of the club, I started coaching with him, and I haven't looked back.
So your current gig is defensive coordinator with the junior Irish Wolfhounds, a team that's the under 19 national team. How did that come about?
So for me, it's a great story for me. I mean, internally, but basically, what happened with me was that I resigned from coaching. I was coaching with the Panthers. I stepped down from that job. COVID hit. I became personally, it was bad for everybody, but I became in a tough place in my life, and then I decided to get out of that tough place. And just as I was making the decision to get out of that tough place, I got a call from Coach Lamazni, and he said, "Look, I've been tasked with this, and I'd love your help if you could do it." And I still thought about it, but at the end of the day, it was too good of an opportunity. The commitment level wasn't as great as it would be to go back to full commitment of coaching, but the rewards would be even greater. So I said, I got to do it. So that's what brought me back into the Wolfhounds, and hopefully, knock wood, we're going in the right direction.
Well, absolutely. I mean, for a team that only formed earlier on in the year, you had your first competitive fixture in August as part of the gift games against a US high school team, a much more established team, and represented yourselves quite well, especially on defense. I mean, as a defensive coordinator, only giving up 22 points, you must have been quite happy with that.
Yeah, it was. I was ecstatic. I couldn't ask for any. I mean, the leading up to it was hard. It was difficult to. We had about 4 or 5 sessions, and we were building things from scratch. So realistically, I mean, there were a lot of basics that we had to kind of teach them before we could get into X's and O's and get into that stuff. And for me, the job is simple because defense to me is about, especially where we're at, is about the players and not necessarily the scheme. And schemes are very important, and plays and X's and O's, that's all very important. And I understand that. But my philosophy with this is to, keep it simple, stupid for me and for them. So it was easy for me to kind of interchange guys in and out when needed to, and they played their butts off. And I couldn't be happier with, more proud of a group of guys that lost like that. But for me, it was never about the X's and O's, and I think that's the good thing about the program. We're going to get them if we buy into the process.
I mean, I remember watching that game and thinking, my God, like the defense is playing lights out here. I mean, they were forcing turnovers, they were stacking the quarterback. You must have lit a fire under them before that game to get that level of performance out of them.
I think, well, you know me, Jimmy. Like I'm good for an all rah rah speech before a game. But motivation is a very important thing for me as far as coaching is concerned, and I look at coaching as it's psychology really and administration when you're the head coach, unfortunately. But I look at it as psychology, and that's what does it take for us to perform better than we're supposed to, and that's what they did, and I couldn't. And offense is hard. I had the easy job. Offense is hard because offense is that you have to protect, and putting an offensive line together is really really hard for anybody to do. All country, it's rare that you hear the struggle not at offensive line, and kudos to teams that have it. But for us, offense is hard, so we're building that, and we're going to score points. The team's going to score points. We just got to figure it out. But defensively, yeah, that I think that was a good motivator to everybody on the team to say we can do this. Like we have a shot here. We can be something special, and they really appreciate that. So that's it. It was kind of easy for me. I didn't have to do too much.
Let's take a step back a little bit and look at the formation of the junior Wolfhounds program. And previously spoken to Coach Lamazzi on the podcast, and his passion for youth football in Ireland shines through. But can you give us a bit of background about how the junior program came to be? Like, what was the concept behind it?
Uh, well, think I think that as most things that I found that happen in life sometimes, but not mostly. But in Ireland, I think maybe it's just since I moved here, but happenstance happens, And I think that this was a product of some happenstance, and for whatever the reasons were, we were invited to be a part of the high school event that was going on at the stadium, and as soon as that kind of invitation was sent out, we had to get to work, and there's I think that caused some even more, stress to everybody around because we weren't part of it. We weren't part of that six team, and understandably so, we were the Irish team. You know what I mean? So we kind of and we felt welcome and warm, and it was fantastic, and there's nothing bad about that. But um, it was a bit different for our guys. They were driving from 3 hours around to get to the game, where all the other guys were already there, and there's a little bit more. But I think the flip side is our guys see that in those guys, and they saw what those guys did and how those guys operate, and I think there's going to hopefully that can build a little bit more on that. But that's how it got started. It was just, can you do this? And Coach Lamazzi said, yeah, we can do this. And at the time, we'd had a couple of good academy seasons with the AFI, and things
Mm,
looked quite promising. Um, so yeah, it was not easy to get the guys, but um, it was we got them. We got the guys together, and it worked. In a lot of ways. So hope that's how it sort of started, and then this next game came. I think a little bit. I'm not exactly sure, but we're excited
yeah,
to go on the road now. Now we're going on the road.
absolutely. And we'll talk about the game in a couple of minutes. But obviously, junior American football, underage American football in Ireland is obviously still in the very kind of nascent early stages. I mean, from your perspective, what needs to go into it to get it up and running and get it established properly?
I think ultimately we need to try to uh, go younger. That's what I think we need to do. I think that the problem here in Ireland, one of the good things about this squad that we have is that we have rugby players, we have GA players, we have athletes that chose football,
Mm,
and I'm not so sure how many of them chose it as their first sport or their second sport. And however, whatever number it is, that's great for us. But if we can go younger somehow, uh, then I think we can be the first sport, and we can start to improve that. But I think it's going to take I think it might take a bit of an overhaul, and that's comes in. Can we get enough people together to help do that? And I think the last couple of years, this past season with academy football wasn't the greatest of years for whatever those reasons are. But as the defensive coordinator of the Wolfhound under 19s, that sucks for me. You know what I
Mm,
mean? That's not the best thing to hear because that's where our feeder system is, and
yeah,
we're going to get that feeder system cut off. But I think that we can, if we can go younger and try to get them younger with a coordinated effort from people, we can start to build that culture because it's not ingrained.
yeah,
It's not part of the culture.
yeah.
It doesn't become part of the culture until they turn 18,
So you're
and
talking about
that's
bringing
yeah,
them bringing them into American football from a younger age, say under 14, under 16, at that level, and starting to build a pipeline for the academy and for the junior Wolfhounds team.
yeah. Like I don't have all the answers. I don't know all the answers, but I know that as I know that for a fact that 99 point, this is a sport that 99% of the people that play it in its home country play it before the age of 18, and then
Yeah,
they're done playing it. But here, 100% are playing it after the age of 18. And that's fine. I get it. Like, I understand that that's what's going on, but you're never going to get how that's you're never going to get them all. You're never going to get
yeah.
them. You're going to, that's not a long lifespan. And you can't, if you want to start, we have solid bones of a national program here, but where are those guys coming from? Where's that senior Wolftown team coming from? Right now it's coming from this pool, but why don't we expand the pool a little bit and try to get them a little bit? Even if we can get 20 or 30 kids, that's still a win. That's still better. And if we can do that cheaply, if the league can, if we can figure out how to get it done cheaply, then that's how I think that's what I think should be done, personally.
So basically, in order to develop a pipeline for not only the clubs but the international programs, more of a concerted effort to introduce people to introduce young players to American football at an earlier age is one of the kind of the key things that needs to be looked at.
I think so. And and I've talked to people at that level to I'd be willing to help in that cause because again, for me, as great as even winning a national championship in college or a Super Bowl, which I would never do, obviously anyway. So in my little life and little piece of it, having winning with a junior program and would be the most rewarding thing that I could probably give back to the game. The game always so I'm willing to help with that, and I think there are guys that were willing to do it, but I think it's going to be a bit of a haul because again, I think right now we can't ask clubs to do that. How do we ask clubs to do that? It's hard to be a
Yeah.
club, So how do we ask clubs to do that? So I think I don't know what the answer is, but I think if we can figure out a way that the clubs can support but not have to be sponsor fully, if we can, and we can start at a small scale, if there's a way to do that, that's what I'd love to see happen.
Obviously, we're seeing American football in Ireland growing exponentially and getting more visibility, which is fantastic for the sport itself. Do you think that in terms of infrastructure and resources and that kind of thing, the more needs to be done to make the league and the holistic view of the league, so senior, junior, the works, do you think more resources are required to make that a success?
I don't have that answer at all. I don't know. Like what happens at a senior kidded level, uh, clubs or whatever. I think that I mean, you can see the growth. The growth is there. I think it's been fantastic. I think that all of the flag programs, and I used to be a old school anti-flag kind of guy, and I do see,
So was
but
I,
I do
so
see.
so was I until the announcer was in the Olympics. Now I'm coming out of retirement in a couple of weeks, hopefully.
Well, and I mean, I think that has a certain set of drawbacks, but I think it's fantastic. I think that this is great. What's happening at those levels has been nothing short of fantastic. And I think that was started a few years ago. And I've seen the growth, over the last, say, 5 years, that we've seen that growth. We went from a group of clubs to now having regular college games here to now,
Yeah,
really ingratiating the sport into us. So, I don't know anything about that. I wish it well. And I still, you know, want to be supportive of it, but I think they're going fine. But that's the problem is how do you ask them to do any more?
yeah,
And that's a hard thing to do. And it's a volunteer organization and nobody's getting paid to do this. And the board works their butts off and, but it is what it is at the end of the day. So I think any youth program selfishly, there could we figure out a way to get that to take all the pressure off of the board, all the pressure off of the clubs, and just say let's see if we can figure this out with your approval, with everybody else's approval. Let's see if we can figure
yeah,
this out and make a run. But at that level, yes. But I don't know how to do that. I don't have the answers. But I'd love to be able to put together with anybody who does and wants to help. Maybe we can do this. I have a 4-year-old son, Jimmy. And ex-football players out there. Yeah, it was. I mean, it's not true. So in 6 years, 7 years, when he's able to play, he'll be playing sports soon, but
yeah,
like when he's old enough, say at a 12-year-old level, where he's picking that rugby team, well, guess what? When he's 18, football is going to be a second sport to him because he's been playing with
yeah.
the same guys for the last 10 years. So if I can get him
Why not make it his first sport?
if I can get if we can, let's give it a shot. Maybe it'll never work, but have we ever tried it before?
No.
What are the pitfalls? I'm sure there's a lot of problems with it, but again, this is just from my position as the under 19 defense coordinator. I want to send kids to college to play football from Ireland,
Yeah,
and they're going now. We have that. There's a little wave of that going, but to be honest, I want them. I don't. We don't need to start. We're good kickers. We got that because we have the background and the history to support kickers and punters, which is fantastic. Let's send some linemen over. Let's send some. Let's send some wide receivers over there. If we could steadily do that to colleges, then they're always going to fly back to be part of this program, to be a part of a Wolfhound program. If we can do it, let's give it a shot.
yeah.
That's my deal.
What? Absolutely. So the second competitive fixture for the under 19 Wolfhounds is fast approaching. You're taking on the Filton Pride team from Bristol on November 25th. How are preparations going for that one?
We will have we've been trying to keep in as much contact with each other. Again, the youth season this year, the results of that weren't great for us because they should have been getting a lot of reps during that, and some of them did, but I don't think all of them did. Um, we are we're gonna have we're gonna take the best team that we could possibly take there, and we're gonna play with pride, and we're gonna, no matter what happens at the end of that game, that's the second step. We got a lot of guys this will be their last game. They played that first game. Now this will be their second game, but it'll be their last because they'll age out of the program.
Mm,
And I think it means a lot to them. So we're gonna go out there and give it all, and we're gonna be as prepared as we can, and hopefully we score some points and we get some turnovers.
And how did the game come about, Coach? Did they reach out to you, or was it organized mutually, or you're just there to call the defense? You don't worry about the
Yeah,
details.
I'm not 100% sure, but I look at it like I'm couldn't be. It's Thanksgiving weekend. You know what I mean? Like, go America! Like, let's play football close to Thanksgiving in another country. So for me, that's all I heard. We're doing it. Let's go do it, man. As long as the players are willing to play and they want to make it work, then let's go do it. So that's how I heard about it. So we're going to scramble together. We did the best we can, and we'll take the best team we possibly can over there. There's some intervarsities happening this weekend, so some competitive football will be played by some of these guys, which is great for them in that way. So they'll be ready. They'll be ready. We'll have them ready.
And in terms of the near to immediate future of the junior Wolfhounds fixtures wise and that kind of thing is what's the plan there? Is there going to be a steady slate of fixtures coming up, or is it kind of a little bit ad
Well,
hoc depending?
yeah, I mean, probably right now it is. There's definitely there's got to be priorities to the entire program, and I know that there's going to be probably some flag tournaments coming up, senior games coming up. There's going to be stuff that's coming up, so we're going to do the best we can to get something going. But I think that from a coaching perspective, all of our staff, they don't want this to end, So I think that we gotta, but how do we, we're gonna age out 6 or 7 guys after this.
Mm.
So
That's where your
we had.
that's where your pipeline comes in. That's the importance of having this pipeline of young blood coming through.
Now you know why I've been thinking about it so much for the last few months. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to stop this because it's a lot of fun, and I could, as I said to you previous, I've done a lot of coaching in this country, and I don't know if I've been more proud of a group of guys and a group of players and coaches and all the good, bad, and the ugly, the staff, everybody that brought this together and went out and put on a show. And we're good young men doing it, and women and women. We showed something to those guys, and
Yeah.
they're proud of that. So I just want to see that happen some more. That's what, from coaching staff, we just want to see that happen some more, and we're not sure how to do it, and we don't know what the answers are, but hopefully we can keep this going somehow, and we can start to work together to make it happen.
We were talking briefly there off air about this is I think your second or third time being involved in a youth Irish American football setup. What's improved between the various iterations, and this seems to be the most successful, I suppose, version of youth international American football in Ireland to date.
Well, to be honest with you, I mean, there's been more investment. I think the investment is there, and that's what's great for us. I mean, we had about 5 sessions, I guess, before the game, and that's five. Some of them, it was their the game was their sixth ever session. In some ways. So but that was still probably, if I can remember, maybe I'm wrong, but I think that was probably twice as much as any other sessions that we had with any for the other programs that were coming. So I think the commitment level from the league to us, to the team, and from the team back, I think was a much bigger one. So I see that happening, and I think there's some wisdom that comes along with that to learn. I think that every staff I've been on, I've been to say I'm proud to be on every coaching staff that I've ever been on. But I definitely, maybe it's because when I came out this, I had no club affiliation.
Yeah.
So I was sort of the outsider coming back in. But it's a very egoless room in that coaching room. And I really appreciate, not that the others weren't, but this was the one I'm in now. And I really appreciate that because we're all trying to get to the same goal, and that is to ultimately see the senior team compete all over Europe. But until then, see this program last and survive for a few years. That would be great.
I remember years ago, Coach, you telling a story in the Panthers dressing room about being a young kid in New Jersey, but growing up a Cowboys fan and going to an Eagles game and getting abuse hurled at you, and that story always stuck with me for because of your bravery for wearing Cowboys gear in the
No, I'm
link.
an idiot. No, I was an
But
idiot. I was dumb. And I lived outside of Philly. Yeah, so I lived about a half hour outside of Philadelphia. I'm a devout Phillies fan. Uh, I I really love the Flyers, and I'm not a huge basketball guy, but I'm a Sixers fan. But for some reason, when I was about 4 or 5 years old, my dad can tell me that I remember the shiny pants or something. I remember that in my history somewhere. That's how I got started. And, I got lucky because then the Cowboys hit the 90s and we were winning every year and so it was great. But yeah, when I was a kid, I used to go to the Cowboys game every year. My dad would get tickets, and I remember driving in and seeing big cowboy hats on at the Veteran Stadium back then. And them looking down in the car, and it said Dallas sucks on the hat. And they would do push-ups every time the Eagles scored. They would do push-ups right in front of me and look at me. I was like 8 years old. Look at me while they're doing push-ups for every point, just giving me hurling abuse, but that's Philly. That you got to be tough to come from Philly. So that's Philly, and I just remember getting, yeah, tough luck, son. You're a Cowboys
But
fan in Eagles country.
on the back of that though, I'd love to know what your most memorable story is about your time playing football or being involved in football, and what stands out to you the most as being special. If you
I
can if
think,
you can pinpoint one moment.
yeah, I mean, I think as far as the most meaning in my life, um, I would say that actually that first day on the pitch with the Dragons on the, I think you were there on that, and I coached again. I played, I coached my whole life growing up. But as far as meaning to me, because at the time, and I tell my people, friends this and stuff, that like since moving to Ireland, football doesn't owe me anything because I was an expat moving here. I knew nobody, nothing, and all of my friends that I have today, for the most part, a big chunk of them I know through the sport and are now lifelong friends of mine that I just met a decade ago, and I'm 50 years old. So I think that the most meaning for me would be all everything that's going on in Ireland. I think has given me the most meaning. But I think that first day I stepped out on that pitch, and you might have. I don't know if you were there for that session or not, but there was a couple of guys on the field that had no idea what was going on. And I remember one who became a very good friend of mine asking me, uh, "So what do you think? What do you think compared to the states? What do you think about this?" And I said, "Well, if it was like 7-year-olds, I would be still not happy with where you are, but we'll get there. But we'll get there." I think that's the biggest thing for me. I think was coming over here and stepping out there and for Ireland in Ireland and it being part of my culture and being able to embrace it. That means more to me than any
Yeah.
other. There's a couple plays and a couple teams and a couple things that I remember and stuff, but this one's been pretty special for me personally. So that'd be my biggest moment.
Well, the junior Irish Wolfhounds take on the Filton Pride November 25th in Bristol. Coach, we wish you the best of luck. I mean, all luck on that one. We'll be keeping an eye on the score online where possible. And let's not leave it so long next time to catch up, all right?
Anytime, pal.